Alright, hello my wisdomers out there listening. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in this amazing world right now. You know. So, how is everyone going? How is everyone feeling? You know, might have been a bit of a rough start to the year for some people, but we got to think. Of like, well, you know, there's a situation right now with Novak Djokovic, the tennis player. You know, the government's just been playing uh, political football at the moment with his visa. Now, in my opinion, should Novak Djokovic play in the Australian Open, you know, not being vaccinated? Like a lot of, well, that's a hard one. No, because it was an actual vaccine mandate that the Australian government had in place. So they're like all other tennis players have had to be fully vaccinated and isolate and do all that. It's kind of not fair to the other players. Like, why should one player, you know, be able to break the rules and the others have to follow them? It's not fair. Now, people want to see Novak Djokovic play tennis at the Australian Open. Um, but what's been bugging me is this political football with the I think it was what do they call the borders or something. You know, apparently denying him a visa. And you know, yeah. And how would you feel like you know you want to get a visa to play in Australia? Now his legal team has basically appealed the decision to deny him entry. I mean, this is ridiculous. You know, and the Hillsong Church has broken isolation rules. And Dominic Perrottet, our premier, okay, has just been disgusted. Now, why? I mean, this Novak Djokovic case has been going on for like last month about if he's denied a visa, why isn't he deported by now? Why has this become political football with the Australian government? Someone tell me, you know, if there's anyone listening and who wants to comment on the Novak Djokovic case, you're most welcome to on Wisdom. This is an awesome app, by the way, and you know I have a passion for politics. I have a huge passion for politics. I love it. But it's just ridiculous. Political football over a visa. They've said, the Scott Morrison's denied him entry into the country. But why, if he's been denied entry, how come he hasn't been deported back? Now, this is ridiculous, this vaccine mandate. This is just fucking ridiculous. I feel it's just become a political football match. And it's just, that's all it is, political football. See, we've got a guest waiting. Alright, let's see. Hi, Malcolm.
I happened to hear last minute and I heard political football. That's all I heard. What you talking about, man?
Talking about Novak Djokovic being deported from Australia, this has been going on for the last month. You know, the Australian Open for tennis.
I would know nothing of that content if I'm being forward with you, but it does sound pretty unfair. Whenever I hear the word
And
deported, it just sounds like a forced action.
yeah, the Australian government is playing political football with his visa. The Supreme Court stuffing him around because he didn't get fully vaccinated, and they required all the tennis players to be vaccinated and isolated. And Novak Djokovic, he's like the world number one, didn't want to. Now the whole Serbian community supporting him. But if the government want him deported, they should have deported him by now. Why are they playing political football with his visa? That's ridiculous.
Because purgatory is power to them that keeps control.
Yeah. It's
So
ridiculous, isn't it?
when I hear political football, I hear a state of purgatory.
Mm. They did the same thing with the second, because they're supposed to put a second airport in Sydney, Malcolm, Badgerys Creek Airport. But this is going on before I was even born. Uh, oh god, when did they start the second airport in Sydney? I think it was 70s or 60s. And anyway, it was just political football going back and forward all the time. You know, and what, 50 odd years later, they've decided to build a second airport in Sydney, Malcolm.
Oh wow!
Because Sydney Airport's just too overpopulated.
So why did they wait so long?
Political football.
What do you define as political football?
You know, back and forward. Oh yeah, we're gonna build it. But we're busy at the moment. The Labor government has plans. They're promising to build it. That's political football. What about you? How do you see political football?
BS.
That's pretty good. I like that one.
Basically. So I just think that they're just wasting time.
Exactly.
Keeping
And
time
this
on their
is off.
side.
Yeah, this is Australia, Malcolm. Do they do that in the United States, wasting time?
That's what we call due process, my friend, is that when somebody is accused of something, they get an arraignment date. Or when they are in the process of being deported, they have to undergo a long and very lengthy and arduous process, and it just becomes exhausting after a while when you've been fighting for years. I know people that are fighting court cases that have taken years, and they keep amending the
Yeah.
court case and pushing it back, and it's just creating more problems. It's just like, what the heck, man?
See, Novak Djokovic is in the country, you know, he's training, practicing tennis. So he's in Australia, but they've just been mucking around with his visa. So the media's saying, oh, he's in a detention centre. The Supreme Court's, you know, was supposed to have a decision this week. to decide if they were going to deport him or not. I don't know. I'm fed up.
I can only imagine.
Why has Australia and our governments become a police state now?
They've always been like that.
Mm.
Sad enough to say.
But not this bad.
Oh, it has been this bad. It's just that we're just now seeing it in plain
Oh,
sight. You know, what's done in the dark eventually comes to light.
shit. Crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, man, it's ridiculous. But I will say, we hold the power. We, as the people, as the sovereign individuals that we can have, truly hold the
Mm.
power. But we don't see it ourselves. And whenever we start a movement or we try to advocate on behalf of an issue of something going on, we kind of just give up in our efforts and don't stay persistent, which gives these bigger entities more control over us. And I think it's important to unite, especially in times of uncertainty and when things are just not adding up. And I think if there was a petition or there was like a rally for this guy Novak, I'm certain
Yeah.
that things would work out in his benefit. I
Well, they
think there just
did.
needs to.
There was a protest in Melbourne for Novak Djokovic to play. But do you think it's fair that he gets benefit of the doubt and all the other players have had to follow all the government rules?
Well, of course. I mean, I think you already have your answer there. No, it's not. It's not fair.
No, it's not. Now he's had COVID-19. Novak
Yeah,
Djokovic.
they're
Yeah,
not
he
playing
did.
games.
He's tested positive to it. I think at the start of the pandemic, and you know, let's talk. Like yesterday, for instance, the rapid antigen test. You can't even buy them in the chemist, Malcolm. They're just sold out. All the COVID, the PCR tests, they're just closed. They're booked out in Australia.
Oh, they are too in the U.S. in certain regions.
And some of the doctors are whinging saying, "Oh, you gotta get a COVID test." How can you? You can't.
No, you can't. It makes it that much more difficult, and it makes
So
us
what?
lose trust in our system.
Yeah. So what do you do? Like people are just gonna walk around spreading it.
At this point, it wouldn't surprise me if half of the population contracted it by now.
Mm. See, there should be people that can come to your house and test you at home, Malcolm.
That would involve the government or your government utilizing a lot of resources that they don't
Mm.
want to because they want to make things work in their benefit. Like with
Well,
the
they sh-
billions of dollars and the trillions of dollars that these pharmaceutical businesses are making, one would only think that if they truly care about tackling this pandemic, is that they would incorporate ways to make testing more accessible, but they don't. Because clearly
mm.
there's an ulterior motive. What we know, I mean, what we know is limited to our opinion because CDC at this point doesn't even truly know, and maybe they
Mm.
do, and they're just playing the oblivious card. Who knows, truly?
Neither does New South Wales Health or the World Health Organization. But there's people out there who are disabled and can't go to get a PCR test. So there should be a nurse or someone come to your house and actually test you at the front door.
That would be actually convenient. Or like with Uber, Lyft, or perhaps
Hmm.
DoorDash or some kind of a taxi hailing service that they could incorporate something like that too, but where you schedule one and like let's say you call your local cable guy, right?
Hmm.
Um, think about it in that way. If you were to call a doctor on wheels, essentially, I think that would be a booming business there. Have at home
Exactly.
doctors because that does exist. Hospice. Do you know what hospice is?
No, what's that?
So when you get like really old and stuff, you get what's called at home care. So at
Yeah.
home care physicians do come to people's homes and they take care of the elderly or people that are terminally ill.
Uh-huh.
And if they incorporated that on a more diverse scale, I think that would increase the accessibility of tests. of testing and helping reducing also the transmission of the disease. But once again, they would require resources that the government clearly doesn't want to give us, even though they funnel trillions of dollars and they lose them, especially in places like Afghanistan. They want to work. They want to focus on everything else except for the people. I swear to God, man, it's annoying.
Yeah, because America's always been about war.
Yeah, man. I mean, well, I would. Yeah, I'm a. It's all about. It's been about. It's mostly about greed. You know, there's psychological warfare, biological warfare, physical warfare, domestic warfare. So many types of warfare, but there's also just greed by these
Yeah.
corporations as a means to make profit, and it's
Same in
about just.
Australia.
It's universal, man. It's just ridiculous. It honestly doesn't really set the moral precedent for how we should be living our lives. This is why, man,
Like,
when I get the chance, as soon as I finish my contract, I'm going to try to live in the alpine forest, somewhere in New Zealand, perhaps. I don't know, but this world is just ridiculous, and it's just exhausting to have to be surrounded by people that want nothing good for you. They want to keep you
I
sick.
know.
They want to keep you relying on healthcare. They want to keep you in the system so that it makes it harder for you to get out. They want to keep you broke and struggling for the next paycheck. They want to make sure that you rely on government assistance with food stamps, all of these other things. They want to make sure that you're in a form of systematic control and make you feel like they need to watch over you. Like there should have been no reason, in my personal opinion, that they should have set vaccine mandates for businesses. Now, I do believe that they should have set vaccine mandates, but for businesses, come on, now you're throwing a little bit of a stretch. And
Yeah.
now they overruled that. So now the Biden administration overruled, or no, the Supreme Court overruled the vaccine mandates the Biden administration made, and this happened exactly 2 days ago. So now U.S. businesses that have over 100 employees can set their own expectations as far as that goes. So like now they did all that for nothing, all that for virtually nothing. They
Yeah.
say one thing and then they take it back. It's confusing. They're causing mass confusion. It's not fair to us.
Like, put it this way, my local doctor, if you're not fully vaccinated, you have to go and get a COVID-19 test before he'll see you. But how can you get a test if it's all booked out? You can't even get a rapid antigen test. And the government in Australia should be providing a rapid antigen test for free because they're like $15 for one test, you know. They're a rip-off.
Oh, they're charging you for that?
Yeah,
Oh wow, oh, they're not
at the
charging us for
chemist. And
tests.
they're sold out. What about in the US? Are they free?
Yeah. Yes. I mean, well, no, to purchase one, of course, it's about like $50. But like
Fucking hell.
to go to a pharmacy and just schedule a vaccine test or a COVID test, it doesn't cost anything.
Yeah. What about to get vaccinated for COVID in the US? Is it free?
Yeah, it's free if you schedule one with your pharmacy. Is it not free where you
Ah,
live?
okay. Yeah, it is free. I get it. I get it through the doc. I went to my doctor.
Oh, well, there you go, man.
No, but like it's stupid, Malcolm. Like a rapid antigen test, you know, and if you get a false and they tell you got to take it in 24 hours, even if you return a negative. Um, oh, it's ridiculous.
Ridiculous is an understatement. I'm gonna tell you right now, it's unethical. It's immoral.
Hmm.
But I just thought I'd hop on here and just pick your brain a little bit. And also
I love.
just to say hi again. Of course, you always know I'm gonna hop on your show just cause.
This is awesome.
Yeah, man. I look forward to more conversations. I'm actually about to lie down and get some sleep for once because this weekend has been exhausting. So,
Yeah, good to hear from you, Malcolm.
see, I said this weekend. Oh my goodness, see, that's all right. That's how I know you get some sleep. All right. Yeah, it's good to see you too, man. I look forward to the next discussion. All right.
See you, man. All right, that was Malcolm. That was awesome, and you know, like I said, guys, the Novak Djokovic case has been very controversial in Australia, and like it's just ridiculous. These rapid antigen tests should be free under the Scott Morrison government. Um, no, they tell you like I said to Malcolm, if you get a negative result. Oh, let's see, we got someone else coming on. Let's see. All right, any minute now. Okay, I don't think that's gone through. Okay. Okay, you'll have to tap the profile thingy if you guys like to jump on stage again. I don't know what happened to the app. Yeah, feel free to jump on stage when you'd like. Yeah, so yeah, the Novak Djokovic case, under the Scott Morrison government, I don't know. All this media is just bombarding everyone. Like, people just want to watch their tennis and their entertainment because that's what people pay to watch tennis. Entertainment, guys. It's what we do when we watch our sport. We want our entertainment. Like Hillsong, for instance, decided to put on a fucking huge concert and just break all the rules and put everyone at risk of COVID-19. Like Anthony Albanese's been up in Queensland. He's saying the same thing I am. You can't even get a rapid antigen test. You can't even go and get a regular PCR test. So what do we do? And your GP's saying that, oh, we want you to have a test if you're not fully vaccinated. Well, I can't get a fucking test because they're turning me away. That's just stupid. You know. I feel that, yeah, we've just become a police state in New South Wales, Australia, you know, and I wonder if anyone's out there listening and like to share their experience on you know, today's topic of Novak Djokovic and the Australian government. If you'd like to jump on stage on Wisdom and let me know where you're from, that'll be awesome. But yeah, that's how it is, and I can see we got a guest waiting. Let's see if this goes through. Haven't I? Hello.
Hey, Stephen, how are you?
Good, Sherry. How are you?
Yeah, good.
Good to
Fellow
see
Aussie.
you. That's it. We're talking about Novak Djokovic.
Yeah,
He's deported. It's just become political football.
he hasn't been deported.
He hasn't?
No,
Oh.
no. They revoked his visa and they were going to send him home, and he's fighting it. So they went to court last night,
Mm,
and he's in and out of. Oh, I don't think it's called quarantine, but anyway, he was wherever he was last night. Then this morning, he's going to his lawyer's office to prepare the things. At 2 o'clock, he'll go back into detention,
hmm
and then tomorrow they go to court again tomorrow morning. So yeah, so he hasn't
Oh.
been deported yet. He's fighting it. So
Do you believe he should play in the Australian Open?
I think his visa was accepted. So yes, he should play. On the other hand, the prosecution are contesting that he lied, that he had COVID in December. So yes, he had it 2020. He had it first,
hmm
and in December he got COVID again. And they're saying that um, he went to Spain and he went to a tennis tournament as well, and so they're investigating that, or his home country are investigating that, Serbia.
hmm
But yeah, so but he's got no symptoms, if indeed, I think the question now, and it's a different issue, which is why he's able to fight it, and rather than just be deported directly, is that from when he tested positive to when he arrived in Australia was only 11 days and not 14
mm
from having a positive COVID test. So
hmm
they're saying that he wasn't yet, didn't yet have the immunity because of having COVID. Shouldn't have been granted the exemption because of having COVID, but
Because
yeah.
he's not fully vaccinated.
No, he's not vaccinated. No. So, and he probably wasn't unwell the second time he had it because of natural immunity.
Mm.
So, maybe he wasn't aware that he was positive until much later. I don't know. Anyway, it's interesting, but it's certainly, like everything else, I think you were talking before about the mandates and stuff, it certainly divided people.
Mm.
Compulsory vaccination, and even though ScoMo will sit up there and say that it's entirely up to people whether they get vaccinated or not, they're not making it very easy for people to make that choice. It's like if you don't get vaccinated, you can't attend the doctor, like you were saying. You can't
Exactly.
go to work, And a lot of the people that I know are off work because they've got COVID and they're fully vaccinated. So, and I think it's, in some ways, it's riskier because the argument is if you're fully vaccinated, you won't become as unwell and you won't die. And so if you if I get the flu and I'm sick, I'm going to stay home. If I've had the COVID vaccine and I get COVID and I don't know I've got it because I've got very mild symptoms and I think it's hay fever or something, and I go out, you can still catch it and pass it on to other people. So it's actually riskier, I think, than not having the vaccine. Although if you're immunocompromised and, you probably need that. But to enforce it on people just so that they can attend their place of work or go to their children's sports games or, it's a bit crazy. It's a bit of a stretch.
Yeah, I'm a member of the Rural Fire Service
Yep,
volunteer,
yep. And you
and
can't do that unless you're double vaxxed.
exactly.
And soon it'll be you can't do that unless you're boosted.
Mm. Yeah, I
And
don't know
that's,
what.
the last thing I'm going to do if my house is on fire is ask the people if they're vaccinated.
Mm.
I want everybody that can help to help in that situation.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
No, so that's what's going on, and you can't even get a PCR test in Sydney because they turn you away
You
because they're
can't get
all
one in
full
Melbourne
out.
either. And people are waiting up to 8 days to get their PCR results if they have had them. You can't get a rapid antigen test anywhere. People are selling them for exorbitant prices on Marketplace and stuff like that.
Scalpers, they're called.
Absolutely. And that's not a new thing. I mean, people have done that with concert tickets and, anything that people want, they'll pay more for.
Mm.
So, yeah.
So this is the and Anthony Albanese. I was listening to him on Sky News yesterday, Sherry, and he's in Queensland. He was saying that. So what do we do if we can't get a test, Sherry?
Yeah. Good question. Just stay home, I suppose.
Hmm. And how come there's people that can't test you at home?
Yeah. I think if you think you're positive, but I think you have to have the positive test to have the hospital at home.
Yeah.
There is, as the guy before was saying, there is GPs that will come to your home.
Hmm.
So, yeah, I don't know. It's all a bit of a mess at the moment. I mean, if it was a private organisation, you would fire the CEO, wouldn't you?
Hmm.
So, yeah,
But that's what's going on in our world right now.
yeah, yeah.
You know.
You have
So.
incompetent people who don't know how to run the organisation,
Mm,
or they're not actually the ones in charge of the organisation. They're doing what their chief of staff is telling them. I don't know.
mm. So how have you been since I last had you on the show?
Yeah, good. It's been a bit flat out with work and stuff like that, and so I haven't been. I've been listening a little bit, but I haven't done a show or been on anyone else's because I've just been had it on in the background while I'm doing other things. But yeah, it's been a bit chaotic,
Hmm.
and like I said,
Hmm. Ooh, just lost you there. Yeah, but that's what's going on in the world right now. It's a lot of chaos, a lot of fear, a lot of people, just yeah, it's just not right, and I think we should have a change sometime in the future. Someone needs to have a change. Yeah, I just lost you there.
yeah, I don't know what happened. So, um, what was I saying? Oh, yeah, most of the people I know are in isolation at the moment because they've had a positive test. And so I'm talking to them on the phone and they're like, I'm not unwell. Some of them are a bit unwell. Most people, they feel really fatigued.
Mm-hmm.
So some people have got a temperature, stuff like that. So, yeah. Interesting days. What about people around you? And what have you been up to? I hear you on here quite a bit, so that's cool.
Yeah, I just published a new music video on my YouTube channel called The New World Order
Oh, really?
yesterday. Yeah, pretty political. I've been doing podcasting on Wisdom. I was listening to Joe Rogan with Snoop Dogg as well on Spotify. What else? Been working out, keeping fit, meditating, you know,
Yeah.
and got my subscription to Disney Plus. Been watching Air Crash Investigation.
Oh, okay.
That's a good show.
Yeah. I've been watching Manifest on Netflix.
Wow, how's that?
Oh, yeah, it's all right. It's that supernatural sci-fi
Hmm.
stuff, and so I find that interesting. Parts of it are a bit like a soap opera, and I'm just like, oh, can't be bothered.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, it's okay. I'm interested in that. The idea, I mean, because time and space are a human construct, and I think shows like Manifest go, what if, because it's a human construct, we could kind of recreate our own where we sit in time,
Hmm.
Like sometimes, I don't know about you, but sometimes when I do meditations, it might be you might travel through time and go somewhere else, maybe even a past life or something like that.
Hmm.
So, is that past life actually in the past, or is it an alternate reality?
Could
So,
be an alternate reality.
yeah, yeah. So I find those ideas interesting,
Hmm.
having been in the personal development field for over 20 years and spoken to a lot of people and seen and heard a lot of unusual things that, it's not like we look at it as some sort of fantasy or science fiction,
Hmm.
which is kind of an oxymoron, isn't it? Even the word science fiction, because science is very fact based and fiction is not. And so, yeah, I think there's a lot of things that we don't know, and it kind of gives you an idea about possibilities. And then I was watching it the other day and I was like, oh, so they went, I don't know. Have you seen it? Have you seen Manifest?
No, not yet.
Okay, so they get on a plane in Jamaica and they're flying back to New York, and then the plane goes through like a storm. And when they land, it's
Hmm.
5 years later. So the people
Wow.
on the plane haven't aged at all, and everyone else, life has kind of gone on. They've done their grieving, they've got remarried, and then these people basically come back from the dead, but for them, no time had passed. And then when they get to New York, they have these, they call them callings. So it
Hmm.
might be a vision, or they hear something, and so they have to follow these callings. And I was like, we had that plane, that Malaysian Airlines plane that disappeared off the coast of WA.
Hmm.
And I was like, oh, I wonder if that was 5 years ago, why Netflix are putting it on now. Like, I think sometimes when you're a critical thinker, you go, why are they releasing that now?
Mm.
Like, I think, was it last year they had Contagion on there, which
Hmm.
was a little bit too close to home. And then this year they released one on there called Night on Fire, which was about maybe Kazakhstan.
Hmm.
Oh, the Ukraine, the toppling of the government in Ukraine. And it's like, why would they release that now when people are rising up against governments all around the world? So I kind of think, oh, are they trying to give people ideas, or are they trying to show that, the outcome at the end of that's not going to be good? Or, yeah, it's just interesting, I think.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. What was I going to say about these soap operas as well? Um, they're all right, but
Do you have Do you have a favourite one?
There was Sons of Anarchy.
Oh, yeah.
That was a soap opera. There was Game of Thrones.
Mm-hmm.
What else? That was about it. Those were my soap operas. But yeah, but I was going to say it sounds like the movie Interstellar. What you were saying?
Okay, I haven't seen that one.
It's the same thing. They go to space on a planet. I think every time they're on a planet, it's like 10,000, 5 years or something like that. They don't age. Check it out when you can.
Yeah.
Or like the movie Inception. That was a good movie with Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah, I think I've got that one here.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah.
Anyway,
I like.
how do you feel about Netflix? Because I had Netflix subscription, but it wasn't fulfilling my standards.
Look, I think because so what I do when I'm not on Wisdom or other things is I'm a counsellor, and sometimes you are dealing with pretty intense conversations with people, and so Netflix is just an opportunity for me to switch off my brain at the end of the day. So it's a bit of a ritual, I guess, to just watch
Uh-huh.
something, one episode of something or whatever, So once I finished work for the day, walk the dog, have some dinner, just watch something to switch my brain off, and then go back and do something else, some personal development work or whatever. So,
Mhm,
yeah, I can usually find something.
mhm,
Sometimes I'll say so I've got a couple of housemates, and sometimes I'll say, "Oh, do you want to watch a movie?" And I'll pick something, and it'll be completely not what I expected. So,
mhm.
yeah,
Yeah, I like Disney Plus better.
okay,
For
yeah,
me, it works out.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I like true crime, and Netflix has a lot of true crime stuff.
Uh-huh.
So, like in the past, I've worked in prisons, and I think all my life I've been curious about why people do what they do.
Uh-huh.
And so, true crime kind of fascinates me, putting puzzles together. I
Uh-huh.
like puzzles. I like trying to work them out. I'm the worst person to watch movies with because halfway through I've worked out what's going to happen, and then I'm like, oh, this is going to happen, and then people are like, oh,
Uh-huh.
why? So,
Yeah.
but I think it
Yeah.
makes logical sense. I remember probably the most stark example of that was Sixth Sense.
Uh-huh.
Did you see that?
Haven't seen it. What's Sixth
Oh,
Sense?
so it was Bruce Willis, and he could see this boy, and he saw lots of other things. And anyway, he was like, this boy said, "I see dead people,"
Uh-huh.
and what Bruce Willis didn't realize. Well, I won't spoil it in case you watch it, but like halfway through, I worked out what was going on, and I said to somebody, "Oh, this is what's going on." And they were like, no, no way. And then at the end, you found out that's what was going on. And they were like, wow,
Uh-huh.
how did you do that? And I'm like, I don't know. Just sometimes it's intuition, and sometimes it makes sense that if you're putting a puzzle together to trick people, that's what you would do.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah.
Wow. That is so cool.
So you like kind of historical stuff, or Sons of Anarchy is not historical, but Game of Thrones is kind of that.
Yeah. And there was a show I watched on Disney Plus called Hot Zone. It was all about the Ebola and anthrax. It's like a soap opera. It was pretty cool.
Hmm.
So I like those sorts of stuff too.
Yeah.
Um, Stuff to do with Mars as well. There was a brilliant movie I saw on Disney Plus. It was like an astronaut got lost on Mars, and
Is that
yeah,
The Martian?
yeah, I can tell it for you now. Yeah, The Martian, brilliant movie.
Yeah, that is. Yeah. Do you think that ideas for movies and series where do you think they come from? Because Carl Jung talked about the collective consciousness and about there are no new ideas. There are ideas, you might have an idea about something and you think about it, and then that idea is in the collective consciousness and it could be picked up by somebody else and they actually do something with it.
Mhm.
So do you think movies and series are actually things that people are picking up the thoughts of other people, things that have the potential to happen, or do you think they're just fantasy, or what do you think?
I think they're the potential to happen because uh, they're wanting to send astronauts to Mars, and not everyone's going to make it back from Mars. So I think they're trying to, predict the future.
And prepare people for that sort of thing?
Yeah.
Or just, do you think movies are a way to just play out, imagine what would happen?
Oh, I think that too. Imagine what would happen, but some of it I do think could be real.
Yeah, yeah. And then if you look at quantum physics and that time-space continuum stuff, then it's probably already happening in, the multiverse theory and things like that. It's like, what if it's already happening?
Exactly.
So,
But if you get to watch the movie Interstellar,
mm-hmm.
yeah, I definitely recommend that.
Yeah. All right. I'll put it on my list.
Uh-huh. And so last time we spoke, you had horses. You were looking after the horses.
I was, and we had, I don't know if it was before we had a big storm up there.
Mhm.
And so we had a big storm. It was okay. Everyone was okay where I was. Where my daughter was, the storm just washed out a lot
Mhm.
of the town and their house got flooded. So they had lost pretty much everything, but thankfully they were insured, and that's been a fairly seamless process.
Mhm.
Traumatic because, they had to grab what they could and get out of there, but seamless in once they got back there and the insurance company came in and cleaned everything out for them, and they've got somewhere to stay, thank goodness. And
Mhm.
yeah, so that was pretty wild. And then down here at my home, there were storms down here as well. And so, but this home again is fine. It's up on a little bit of a rise, so it was okay. But yeah, have you had storms up there?
No, we just had rain.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we've had thunder, lightning, bucket loads of rain, hail, just crazy weather.
And when I try to mow the lawn, the grass will just grow back again.
Yeah, yeah. We did the lawn here the other day, and here we are 2 days later, and we've had sun and rain, and it's like
Mhm.
3 inches high already. So,
Mhm.
I mean, it's good. It's making things grow. But also, when you have a storm, you get that everything's so crisp and clean and sharp and energetically, I think, because there's a lot of electricity in storms that everything's a bit buzzing.
Mhm.
So,
Exactly. But so these are the obstacles, I guess, we have to overcome in the world right now with all misinformation, Sherry.
yeah. Well, I think in regard to which part, Stephen?
COVID-19, you know, moving on with this,
Yeah,
because I don't
yeah.
want to live like this forever.
No, and we can't. It's not sustainable.
No.
So I think that well, I don't know. There was somebody said the other day that they'd said we just have to treat it like the normal flu,
Mhm.
and I think that's what we're going to get to. I think so. Just watching kind of the last 2 years, the first wave, I suppose you'd call it, of COVID was
Mhm.
quite deadly
Mhm.
for a lot of people.
Mhm.
And the symptoms were quite intense.
Mhm.
And then we had the Delta wave, which was probably twice as contagious, I think,
Mhm.
but half as deadly. And now a lot of professionals, doctors, scientists, and stuff like that are saying Omicron, twice as contagious as Delta, half as deadly.
Mhm.
And so I think that if people have, people know their own body and they know whether they've had a cold or flu before or whether they've had the flu shot or, if they've had all their vaccines from childhood or whether they go to the doctor on a regular basis and they're on other medications, or whether they prefer to work with a naturopath and with their own body's defences. And so I think we need to treat people like adults and let them make decisions for themselves after consulting, with their loved ones and with their doctor and doing their own research. That's what I think.
Exactly.
And you can do that at an individual level, but then we all are engaged in other systems. So, we are engaged in the commercial system where we need to go and buy groceries or put fuel in the car, and we can do all of that. There are other systems now that people are, if they're not double vaccinated, locked out of. But at least here in Melbourne, if you're not double vaccinated, and I'm not sure what's going to happen now that people are due for boosters, but if you're not double vaccinated, you can't attend a venue. Like, you can't go to the tennis, you can't even go to the local pub and have a beer if you're not double vaccinated, because they're still checking that. People are still checking in everywhere, but the government here have said that they're not using QR code check-ins because the numbers are just too big for them to keep track. But people are still doing it. So I think people have been put into a state of such fear over the last couple of years that they continue to do things that there's this false sense of security that it will keep them safe when it actually won't. If you're using your card, your card from your bank here, I think there are 8 of the major banks have signed up with Tree, and Tree are contract tracing. So you might go to the supermarket and use your Commonwealth Bank card to pay for your groceries, and if that's been a exposure site that they know, then you'll get, within a couple of hours. So it's actually much more efficient than the government system, which is taking up to 8 days. So, but people are still checking in everywhere, and it's like, why? Why are you doing that? Because I don't know. I think it's all leading toward the social credit score, where people are tracked and traced, and
Everything now has become a social credit score, especially in Sydney, New South Wales.
Yeah, like, be a good human being and do what you are told without ever questioning it. And
That's why I wrote a song called "The New World Order" on my first album.
Cool. And what's your YouTube
Shields
called?
Shields Productions. If you're on Wisdom, just tap my profile, and it should show you a link to YouTube on there.
Okay, cool. I will do that.
You can do it now.
Can do it now. It's not going to boot me again.
No. If the app boots, you just write to customer service and say, this is what happened to the app.
Yeah. Yep. Just like. Okay, so when I tap on your profile, it's just got, I'm a composer. Have you got your links? Oh, yep. Got it. Okay, subscribing right now.
And you feel free to leave comments in the comments section too.
Yeah. Yep.
So
I
anyway,
think the New World Order is not a new idea. That's been around since the 80s. People have been talking that one world government, one world money system, one world religion. People have been talking about that since the 80s, and they were, called tinfoil hatters. And I was listening to, so there's a doco that's just been made about Melbourne by a guy called Topher Field. And he's just done, and it's like 106-minute doco. It's on YouTube. It's called Battleground Melbourne, which kind of gives the story of what's happened in Melbourne, and I don't know where I was going with that now. And how it's all kind of come together, and how the people who were, and he said in the Q&A afterwards that when this first started and people were branded as conspiracy theorists, and they'd say, this is going to happen next, and this is going to happen next, and this is what they're going to do next. and every single one of those things. And particularly when it came to you won't be able to work unless you've got the jab. People were like, nah, that'll never happen. And that's exactly what's happened. So, and he was like, you know, I don't know. They've been right more often than they've been wrong, the conspiracy theorists. But people have been kind of looking into all of this sort of stuff for 40 years. So it's not a surprise to a lot of people, but a lot of people have just been going about their day. They've been caught up in, I guess, capitalism and consumerism and having a good time and you know, spend as much as you can, work hard, play hard, which is all fine. But if you're doing that with your eyes closed, then you're going to be stunned when they're opened. And if you, the other thing is, I mean, I know you were talking before about, you know, wars and stuff like that. This is a psychological warfare, and people have turned against each other, which I think is incredibly sad. You know, we need to turn towards each other because at the end of the day, it's not going to be the government that helps you. It's going to be your neighbour. Like you were
Yeah.
talking about before, if you're in the volunteer fire brigade, you know, if my house is on fire, it's not going to be the government that helped me. It's going to be the fire brigade or my neighbours that are going to grab buckets. And, you know, when we have a storm on a property, and we've just been through quite a bit of that here in Melbourne, when you have a storm, it's your neighbours who are going to come and, okay, you know, or your friends that are going to go, what do you need? I've got somewhere you can stay. I've got somewhere you can store your furniture. I've got this thing that will help your cat calm down. You know, do you need food? So it's local. It's the people in your vicinity, not the people that have never met you. You know, I mean, every statistic, we hear all these statistics every day. And I know that in New South Wales as well, you've had a presser every day, press conference, and we hear all the statistics every day, but we don't hear the stories. Like, what was that person's name? And I know for privacy reasons they can't give that, but
Well, let's talk about the Queensland Premier Anastasia Palaszczuk just shut the border to the whole of New South Wales.
did she again?
Oh no, she's just reopened it, but she's
Yeah.
made it very hard.
Okay, because I've got a friend who's up there, and her father's in New South Wales, just over the border, and she said yesterday, everything's gone now. Like now, you can travel freely without. There's no restrictions.
Oh, good.
Yeah, but it's like WA is even worse.
Is it?
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Shit.
even if you live in WA, because I'm from WA, so we keep an eye on what's happening there. And even if you live there and you're over here, you can't come home until at least the 5th of February, and you can only go home if you're double vaccinated. So I have friends who live here but own property in WA, and they can't go back. And
Wow.
and the mining sector in WA relied a lot on fly in, fly out workers from all over the country. And they can't, you know, if they can't go back, it's sometimes they're just like, no, nobody can come in. It's just crazy.
I know.
So yeah. But yeah,
Exactly.
it's interesting times, and I think it's also changeable. Everything can change on a day by day basis. You know, what happens today, and like your title for this one, Novak Djokovic being deported. I mean, that was yesterday at 5 o'clock. They made that announcement that they had overturned his thing, and it was 8:45 when they went to court, and it didn't finish until 11:30, I think,
At night or in the morning?
at night, last night.
Oh, God.
Yeah, yeah. So as soon as they heard that decision, his lawyers petitioned the court and got in at 8:45 last night. And it was the same judge who had overturned their rejection of his visa before. So he was a bit cranky, I think, to have it back in his court going, really? The same judge who said, what more could this man have done because he did everything that you have asked him when they let him in. So, yeah, it's a bizarre case. Sometimes I think it's a bit of a distraction. You know, we are the whole world is focused on this one thing, and it's like, what else is happening? Because I don't know what's been put through in your parliament, but there have been things put through in parliament down here. Like we had the pandemic bill, which was a big deal. You know, people protested, hundreds of thousands in the streets here for that. There was a sex workers bill that was put through,
Mm-hmm.
while other things were, you know, like people didn't know about it because we're focusing on the wrong sort of news. And then there was another one which was like a capital gains bill,
Mm-hmm.
that has just been put through. So, and all of these sorts of things are going to harm people in the end, you know, harm the individuals in society in the end. So I just wonder what it is that and they put through another one that meant if you are a pastor or a priest or a person of faith or a parent, you can actually be charged and locked up if you speak to somebody a child who wants to transition transgender. You can be charged and locked up. So they've
Mm-hmm.
made that illegal even for parents, but for people of faith, you can't pray for someone to not do that. It's
Mm-hmm.
just, and it's like, wow, you just take away people's, you know, right to think for themselves or to have a conversation about something. You know, like that means that if you're a pastor of a church now, you can't have a conversation with somebody who's questioning
Mm-hmm.
and say, what would God want you to do? Because that might be seen as trying to stop them from doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, yeah, it's bizarre. So, but the Djokovic thing is very high profile. I mean, it just makes the Australian government look like dills, really.
Mm-hmm.
But I just wonder what's going on behind the scenes, not necessarily in tennis, but you know, in politics. That what else are they putting on the table that we're not looking at because we're all looking at Novak Djokovic?
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I don't
I
know
mean,
why they
there's a
part. Yeah.
there's a bill on the table in New South Wales that makes employers 100% responsible for people who have adverse effects from the vaccine,
Uh-huh.
not just for their time of employment, but for the rest of their lives. So that bill's on the table up there. It's had the first reading. I don't believe it's had the second reading yet and gone through. But it's like nobody's up in arms about that. We're all talking about Novak Djokovic. And
Mm.
people are like, well, you know, why should he be able to come here and play tennis? It's like, well, that's his job.
Mm.
Why should he not be allowed to do his job? So, you know, I think we're getting lost in the narrative of, oh, well, he's just throwing a temper tantrum. It's like, no, he wants to work. He's done everything that was asked of him to be able to work, and now they're saying you can't work.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of at on a global stage that's a similar position to what a lot of people within society are in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've done everything that you've asked me to do, and I still can't work.
Yeah. So these two bills you mentioned in Victoria, what
Yeah.
were they passed or not?
So the pandemic bill was passed, which gives him pretty much unlimited powers to call and we are still in a state of emergency. So, but that you know, they can attend your home without a warrant, take you away, all that sort of stuff. That's all in there.
Mm-hmm.
So it completely tramples on human rights. The There was a new bill. I don't think they're calling it the Sex Workers Act anymore. I think it's got some other name. But anyway, in that one, it used, and so this is how bizarre it is. Fiona Patten is a politician down here
Mm-hmm.
for the Reason Party. It used to be called the Sex Party. And she's one of, you know, the Premier's people who vote for his side all the time. And
Mm-hmm.
so, but she was the one who kind of pushed for this and said that sex workers were discriminated against because there were things in the Sex Workers Act that were discriminatory. So it's been amended.
Mm-hmm.
But the amendments, it's like a sex worker no longer has to have compulsory STIs and health checks, and they no longer have to use protection when they're having sex with their clients. And the other thing in there that was, and there's a lot in there, but I have read the whole thing. A child under 2 cannot. So now it can be in a residential area, so you can't refuse to rent a house to somebody who wants to use it as a home-based brothel, if you like, or you can't throw somebody out for doing that if they're doing escort services from home. And a child can't be present in a place where sex services are offered if they're over 2 years of age, unless that child lives in that property. And I was just like, there's so many areas for concern in there, and nobody said boo.
Has this been passed or not?
It's been passed.
In Victoria?
In Victoria. Things are passed all the time, and I think a lot of the stuff that goes on that is big news, that is filling up our news feed, is a distraction from what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So there's a really good interview by, who was it by? I think it was Damien Curry, and he's up in Queensland, but he was talking to, it was Rod Cullerton from the Great Australian Party, and another man, Len somebody. And they were talking about a law an act in Queensland. Even if you pay off your property, you can never get a copy of the title of your property. And I think New South Wales are doing the same thing. So if you bought a property in Queensland, you can't get proof of ownership of that property even once you've fully paid for it. And that's something that's been passed. And if you own your property and you're in Queensland and you ring, they will say, no, we can't give that to you. We can give you an electronic thing that says this is the property, but we can't give you proof of ownership that you have paid it off.
Sherry, I've come to the conclusion in my life that it's just easy to rent a house.
Yeah.
I'm just fed up with banks. Banks are just greedy. They don't care.
Yeah. Well, I think we've been fed the great Australian dream. Work hard, buy a property, pay it off. That's your retirement fund. Well, we have superannuation for retirement if it's still there when we retire. But yeah, so and people say to me, I'm like you, I rent, and people are like, why would you want to rent and move? And I'm like, well, I rent a property that is owned by a guy who built these. He built 6 of them, 15 years ago or whatever. This is his retirement plan. I pay my rent every week. This property is probably worth $1 million. And if I were to buy it, I would be paying a lot more than what I'm paying in rent to live in this property. So it actually works out cheaper for me. And yes, I'll never own it, but might be that nobody will ever own their property.
As long as you got a roof over your head, that's all that matters.
Yeah, if there's an economic collapse in the future, like in the next couple of years, what's happened in Queensland will mean you don't own that property anyway. So, and I think there was something else just in the last couple of weeks that said that the banks, if they got in trouble, rather than being bailed out by the government, could seize the people's money. And I think that has happened in a couple of places. Hopefully somebody else can jump on from somewhere else and let you know if that's happened in other countries, that banks can stop you from accessing your own money.
Oh, they can do what they want.
Yeah. So
I have no remorse for the banks.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, I don't care about them.
Yeah. So I think, I think that there will be parallel societies that pop up out of this, alternative societies where people use cash and they support each other and they have micro businesses, and I think there'll be a whole community come up out of this, what's going on now.
I know. Exactly.
Yeah.
But, look, I've got to go and eat my breakfast. This was a great show with you as well.
I've got to go have a coffee. So, but yeah, great chatting. Let's talk again.
You too, Sherry. Have a good day.
All right. See you, Stephen.
Bye. Alright, that was Sherry. That was a great show. Sherry's from Melbourne. Look, I'm going to end the podcast there. I'd like to thank all my listeners this morning on Wisdom. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the Stephen Shields radio show and turn on your notifications so you never miss an episode every Friday at 6 p.m. Sydney, Australia time. Also, subscribe to my YouTube channel, Shields Productions. If you like music content, you get new videos every Friday at 6 p.m. Sydney, Australia time. And check out my new music video called The New World Order on YouTube. I'm Stephen Shields. Bye for now.